back in.
Okay. It's gone the other way. Okay, shall we get going then? I'm happy with that.
Yes.
Great. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Sarah Williamson. My company is Drink Less, Live Better. And of course you can find me on the IPHM website and at drinklesslivbetter.com, and also the social media handles of that name. I am going to talk to you today about the idea of going beyond dry January. So maybe you are sober curious at the moment, maybe you've had an extended period of not drinking, maybe you've had a long time of not drinking, but you're looking to support other people around you. That's some of the things that we're going to cover today. The rules of the meeting are that if you would like to speak, I'm really happy for questions as we go along. Please use the raise hand function, and you can unmute yourself and put your camera on if you like. I'd be really delighted to chat to you, and I completely don't mind being interrupted with questions as we go along. You will need to unmute yourself. I can't do that for you. Please listen kindly to anybody who is commenting or asking questions. Everyone is of course bringing their own individual experiences to that, and of course holding space for other people is a really nice act of kindness. Racism, sexism and discrimination of any kind of course are not welcome here. You will be asked to leave or removed from the room if you break this rule. Please keep anything that anyone else says confidential, respect other people's privacy. And if you've got a question that you'd like to ask but you don't want it to be public, you are more than welcome to message me afterwards, and I'm happy to chat and answer questions. So today, dry January, we are on the 29th. Gonna have to check, the 29th of January today. So today, tomorrow and Monday, the last days of January, the 1st of February is on Tuesday. So if you've been doing dry January this year, it might have seemed like the longest month ever. In fact, even if you haven't been doing dry January this year, it might have seemed like the longest month ever. I can't believe that we've still got another whole weekend to go. Various communities that I'm in, people are either talking about the end of dry January coming and being interested, excited, apprehensive, nervous about what is going to happen next for them as far as their decision to be alcohol-free, sober, or to moderate their drinking is concerned. And some people are celebrating the fact that Tuesday is on its way, and they are looking forward to the 1st of February being the moment that they go back to drinking, either in the same way as they were before January came around, or perhaps in a slightly different way. They might be reconsidering their drinking, their alcohol habit from that point forward. So if you have been taking part in dry January this year, you potentially could be 29 days without having had any alcohol, or perhaps longer if you started before that, or you might have had some blips along the way, some slip-ups, some relapses. Whatever you've done, you're probably exactly where you need to be right now. There is so much learning to be had in those slips and blips and relapses if you have had them. And if you've had a month where the percentage of days without having had a drink is higher than your average month, then you're already winning. If you're ready to continue your sober or alcohol-free journey from here on in, it might be interesting for you to know that 60 days from the 1st of January would take you up until the 2nd of March, and 90 days from the 1st of January would take you up to the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. If you were going to carry on and do 6 months alcohol free, that would take you up until the 1st of July. So the thing I'd really encourage anybody to think of at this stage is, what goal feels fabulous to me? If I put my hand on my heart and think to myself, okay, dry January, got mixed feelings about it, or got terrible feelings about it, or got fabulous feelings about it, attach no judgment to those feelings. But what next? If I put my hand on my heart and think, 60 days, could I do 60 days sober? How does that make me feel? Does it fill my heart with joy? If it does, then go for it. Now, in the past, I did any number of dry Januaries and sober Octobers. And when I first decided I was going to take my alcohol-free journey seriously, I got stuck right in and chose to have a year as my goal. I already knew that I could do a month easily because I'd got the evidence for that. And 60 days or 90 days just didn't feel like enough of a stretch for me. It wasn't something that got me excited. The thing that I liked about having my 1 year goal was that it felt slightly terrifying. It felt like a stretch goal. I did not know whether I was going to be able to achieve it or not. So getting stuck into it felt like a proper challenge. The language around this is so important. I didn't at any point say that I was going to stop drinking. I wanted it to be all about the positive feelings. I'm not keen on the word sober, just doesn't feel fabulous to me. So I started to talk about my alcohol-free experiment. I didn't want to call it a challenge because a challenge felt a bit too sporty for me. And so an experiment felt just about right. It felt like I'd given myself the opportunity to really dive deep into something and see how I could make it work for me. So choose your language really carefully. Choose your length, the length that you want your goal to be, and your language around it. Make it just feel good for you. And could you do 1 year? Could you? Could you give yourself that stretch goal and say, okay, I started on the 1st of January, or I started on the 29th of January, wherever it was. I'm really going to deep dive into this, do the work around it, and set out to achieve something that I've never achieved before. There are 2 different schools of thought of framing your goal or your challenge or your experiment, whatever you want to call it. One long-held AA school of thought is around working 1 day at a time. So you might say, okay, this is something that I'm going to do for myself. I am just going to concentrate on getting through each day as it comes up for me. And the other school of thought is about making the decision that I am never drinking again. This is my forever decision. I am now sober. I'm not a person who drinks. My life is alcohol free, whatever it is, the turn of phrase that you use. Now, if 1 day at a time sounds like it's going to work really well for you, then choose that. And if I am never drinking again sounds fabulous, then choose that too. You've got any option. 1 day at a time, a goal in the middle, or forever. For me, 1 day at a time did not feel like a fabulous turn of phrase because I didn't want to be making a decision every day. I didn't want to be thinking to myself every day, oh, today is a day that I'm not going to drink. I was more comfortable thinking further ahead than that. I was more comfortable knowing in my mind it was going to be a year's challenge, so I'm not going to pour myself a drink for a year. I also couldn't quite deal with the thought of never drinking again. And in fact, I still can't. I have been alcohol free since 2019, but I'm not going to tell you that I'm never drinking again because I simply lied to myself so many times in the past about never drinking again. I woke up so many times with the mother of all hangovers and disliked how I was feeling every single time, and often said, I'm never drinking again, but I didn't really mean it at that point in my life. I was always never drinking again until the next time I was drinking, which would roll around regularly. So I choose not to say at the moment, I'm never drinking again. I'm really happy where I am. I've long since achieved my 1 year alcohol-free experiment. I'm more than 2 years into it now. And the way I view my next goal is always kind of around another 6 months or another. I love celebrating the days where I've got double zeros in it. So I loved celebrating 500 days alcohol free, 600 days, 700 days, because that just feels like nice markers in my life that I can say, oh, that's something good to celebrate. And when I say celebrate, it might just be myself noticing it and saying, well done me, to myself, or it might be something that I share on social media and say to other people, look how fabulous I am, look what I've achieved. And I love celebrating anybody else who does that too. It really brings me joy seeing other people's happiness in achieving their alcohol-free goals. So what happens now if you set yourself out to have a dry January and it hasn't been completely dry for you? Perhaps there have been curveballs, things that have cropped up for you. Perhaps you've been sideswiped by something unexpected at work or in your personal life, and you've reached for a drink as a way of coping with that situation. Well, what happens is not much. There are no rules around dry January. There's nothing that you've necessarily signed up to for dry January. I'm afraid to say you're almost certainly not going to get a medal for it at the end. I'll congratulate you if you let me know about your successful dry January. But what there is learning. And if you've tripped up along the way because of something external that happened, you can count that as learning. You can put that down to an experience that happened. You use the tools that you had in that moment for a situation that you had to deal with at the time. And perhaps when something similar happens again in the future, you'll have some better coping mechanisms. You'll have had some time to consider how you might have liked to have dealt with that situation differently, and arm yourself with better tools and techniques for a future situation. So I would be urging you to start now, if you're ready, to just begin, to just get going on it, even if things haven't exactly gone as you would have planned them up until now. Almost preparing yourself by just leaping in. It's a bold step. I would urge you that if you've got any alcohol in the house right now, you get a shot of it. I happen to have alcohol knocking around in my house. I live my alcohol-free life, not paying attention to my husband's massive whiskey collection or the couple of bottles of wine that are sitting in my garage for when guests come round. But if that isn't the way that you could deal with it, then I would say just get shot of the alcohol. Just leave it on your neighbour's doorstep as a happy January present, or give it to your friend, or pour it down the sink if it's open bottles of spirits. That's what I did right at the beginning of my alcohol-free journey. We had a huge cocktail cabinet. I gave half drunk bottles of gin to various friends and neighbours, and then I had loads of bottles of half empty ouzo and tequila and things that had either served fabulously as cocktail ingredients at some time in the past, or were horrible holiday souvenirs brought back that, I mean, ouzo never tastes great in the UK, does it? That should only be drunk on a Greek island in very limited circumstances. So I just had no trouble pouring any of that stuff down the sink, just getting shot of it so it wasn't in my house. I was very careful about how I sold my alcohol-free experiment to different friends and family in my life. Some people I did tell the whole story to right at the beginning and said, this is something I'm going to do for a year and see how it makes me feel. Other people I told little white lies to. Work colleagues, I didn't really tell what I was doing at all. I went on a big work night out right in the beginning of when I was first alcohol-free in December 2019. And those work colleagues, although we'd been out together a lot, we'd never been out in an evening situation before, and we'd gone to a big comedy club in London. And actually turning up there and not drinking was fine, because they'd never met the version of me who previously would have been drinking a lot and led the charge to the bar and the nightclub afterwards. So actually turning up as the version of me who I wanted to be from this point forward and in the future was really easy. Nobody had any expectations of how I was going to behave until I turned up and behaved how I behaved, completely sober, and it was fine. I found that some people really wanted to question me about my decision to go a year alcohol free, and I dealt with a lot of those questions around why are you doing this? You don't need to do this. You haven't got a problem with alcohol. And in some situations, I really cut the conversation as short as I could do, because I didn't feel comfortable talking about it. And in other situations, I was really happy to talk about it. Certainly some of the behaviour of a few of my best friends has really changed over the last few years. So where we used to socialise a lot, big nights out, actually now our socialising, not by my pushing it, but as a group of people, has moved now more towards weekend brunches and walking dogs together, going for long walks at the weekend, which for all of us is just a much nicer and better way to socialise, with none of the horrible after effects of the next morning or day being wasted to hideous hangovers. And the beauty of that is that we remember all of the conversations that we have together. We have a lovely time. We're generally doing something that doesn't inflict damage on us in some way, and it feels so much better. Sorry, I'm sitting on my leg. Being alcohol free, I would suggest in the beginning, might take a bit of effort. It isn't hard, it isn't difficult, but it takes some contemplation. You have to put in some emotional, physical and spiritual work sometimes. And for me, each of those things happened at different times as days rolled into weeks, rolled into months. I started to feel the physical benefits of being alcohol free really quite quickly. I definitely, because you automatically then stop consuming so much sugar, if you're drinking wine, you're drinking gin, all of those drinks that are loaded with calories and sugar. I did have some sort of sugar withdrawal over the first few weeks into the first month. But after that, my skin really cleared up. Definitely my hair started to look shinier. I know you can perhaps tell this is not my natural hair colour, but my hair did start to feel so much better. I had a bit of a low-level brain fog going on for a long time before I gave up drinking, and also some anxiety. Stopping drinking lifted those things really, really quickly, and I got into such a better set of habits around sleeping. And I cannot tell you how much I love getting into my bed sober. It's something that we should all really celebrate. That sober sleep, that solid sleep where you don't get the 3 a.m, well, I speak for myself here, the 3 a.m. cold sweat, waking up and wondering what I'd said, what text message I'd sent. The beauty of none of that happening anymore is just such a joy, something I'm so grateful for in my life. And if you've got no other reason to be alcohol free, then that sleep one really is just a winner every time. My children are 14 and 13 years old, and 2 and a bit years ago, after a period of really successfully moderating my drinking, when I then decided I was going to do this alcohol-free life experiment, I very quickly into it became really aware of the thoughts and feelings that I'd had previously about drinking around my kids. When my kids were toddlers and really small, I definitely used wine as a real escape at the end of the day. And actually taking that tool away and now showing my children a different set of behaviours is something I feel really good about. I firmly believe that a massive proportion of parenting is about modelling behaviours for our children. And one of the things I had been modelling for my kids without knowing about it previously was that to be a functioning member of society, whether it was just on the weekends or during the week as well, whether you were trying to deal with a situation that was either stress or boredom or loneliness, fill in the blank, any number of reasons for which you pour yourself your drink, I was showing my children that this was the tool I used. Pouring the glass of wine was the solution to this problem every time. And I thought to myself, if my kids got into their 20s and 30s and I was watching them deal with the situations of life that were happening for them by drinking to numb out whatever emotion it was that they were uncomfortable with, I would feel really disappointed about that. And I would only have to look at myself to know that I had taught them that behaviour. So a short while after I decided to be alcohol free, I really thought how happy I was that I was showing my children that there was a different way to behave, that at some point in the future, I'm sure they're going to experiment with drinking. But I just want them to know and be totally secure in their mind that there is an alternative way to be an adult, that you absolutely don't need to drink. Of course, we know there are people out there who don't drink, but I'm really happy that my children are seeing in our household that somebody doesn't drink, that they choose not to, that that's an okay, that it's a happy, that it's a really joyful choice. It's not something that I feel that I'm deprived of or worried about in any way. My husband still drinks, so my children are getting an overview of what life looks like under the roof that they live under. So having said that, being alcohol free is not hard, but it might take effort. I would say that the things that are harder than being alcohol free are hangovers, are low level brain fog, are anxiety, are the lost memories as well. All of those nights out that I thought were fabulous nights out, I now look back on and actually don't have a massive recollection of them. And I've been so happy being, yeah, you're right, Siobhan, the lost memories. I've been so happy since not drinking, going to fabulous things, having festivals, weddings, having the loveliest time and feeling like I am really present in that moment. In December, I went clubbing with a bunch of friends for the first time since the lockdown began. And I happened to have taken a selfie at the beginning of the evening, and I took one at 3 o'clock in the morning when we were on our way home. And the next morning I looked at the photos and I looked pretty much the same at the beginning of the evening as I did at the end of the evening. And for me, that record, that looking as if I hadn't been dragged through a hedge backward with my makeup here, and the next morning I had actually taken my makeup off and I felt fine, was really, it's such a perfect illustration to me as to why this kind of living is suiting me really well at the moment. I certainly never ever consider myself to be in competition with anybody else about who is gone the longest, been the most sober, whatever the thing is. I very definitely am comparing myself now only to a previous version of myself. So many years ago when I was drinking way too much versus a few years ago when I was moderating my drinking really quite successfully, to 2 years ago making that initial decision that I was going to stop for a year, all the comparisons that I do with my past self have brought me forward into this place where I feel really happy about where I am right now. And I would love other people to also give that journey a bit of a go. I'd like to read a poem to you. This poem is by Portia Nelson. If you Google it, you'll find it in so many different places. It's also known as an autobiography in 5 chapters. You could Google that, or There is a Hole in My Sidewalk. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. I walk down another street. And I feel like that is a perfect illustration of so many different people's journey towards living an alcohol-free life. It's a poem that really, I think, is about any kind of transformation in life, but it fits really nicely to the alcohol-free journey. I've got time for a couple of questions or comments. If anybody has any, I'd really happily have a conversation with anyone. You're really welcome to unmute yourselves if you want to.
What is your favourite thing about being sober?
Oh, my favourite thing about it's always going to be the sleep. It's always going to be the sleep. I love that feeling every morning of waking up and just knowing that I'm never going to have that ugh feeling. And I think with that, always the feeling of never being dehydrated, feeling like my body is absolutely working how it should do. That's my favourite, yeah.
I love that. Oh, has anyone else got any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can pop it in the chat and we can read it out. What has been the biggest physical change you've noticed since you stopped drinking?
I think it's probably the way my skin looks. I used to have breakouts that I thought it was all hormonal, but looking back, it was probably about the amount of sugar that I was consuming. And I'd love to tell you that I'm not vain, but I'm about to. One of my kids recently, we were looking at side-by-side pictures, and Charlie said to me, "Oh, that's weird, you look older in that photo," and it was one from a few years ago. And I thought, oh, I'm going to take that from a 13-year-old boy. He is not always known for his brilliant information, but I'm not going to say no to that. So yeah, I think probably 44 years old, and I think I probably looking okay for 44, and a big part of that is definitely attributable to being well enough hydrated and yeah, not consuming all that sugar.
I love that. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing session. I'm sober, so I've loved it.
It's always good to have things reaffirmed, isn't it? And listen to other people's. I love hearing other people's stories. I really enjoy collaborating, being part of Be Sober, as well as having my own coaching practice. I think that there's such a lovely opportunity. The more voices that we hear, the more people that are sober out loud just might spark an idea for somebody else.
Definitely. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Do I need to oh yeah, So I would just say thank you ever so much for joining us today. Obviously, this talk has been part of the IPHM 2022 festival, and if you're interested, you can have a look at their website, look up more information about any of the practitioners there, and please do sign up to the newsletter as well. Thank you so much for listening.
Oh, thank you.